Welcome to the Product Design for Learning podcast. We have Ashley and Hannah on the call. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Would you guys like to give us a quick intro on who you are, why you're here, and then we'll get into the first question about... Actually, we'll do the why you're here in a minute. Who are you? Let's do that first. Who would like to go first?
Go on, Ash. You can go
No,
first.
you go. That's fine.
All right. Well, I'm Hannah Clark. I am the marketing director at MAAS Marketing. And at MAAS, we're all about marketing for learning. So we help L&D professionals actually market their content so that people want to take it. So we're a very, very niche organisation, but I've been in the L&D space coming up to 10 years now. I love the L&D space, but there's definitely a lot to be learnt.
Yeah, my name's Ashley Hinchcliffe, and I am the managing director of MAAS, so I'm the other half of MAAS. And just to add to Han's wonderful introduction, we're really focused on helping L&D get those wonderful learning experiences seen. You know, we put a lot of time and energy into building our learning products, but we've put very little emphasis on raising awareness and building engagement, and therefore, you know, habitual changing of behaviours with learning. It's a real problem. The engagement issue has perpetuated in our industry for decades, and we personally believe that marketing baked into a learning function really does transform the way we think, the way we work, and the way that we actually get our people to use our products.
Absolutely. So the first question we usually ask people is, how would you summarize this phase of the process and why it's important? Just for the listener, we spoke about this just a few seconds ago, and we all decided that whilst the phrasing of that question is maybe not quite right for this particular part of the process, I'm keen for everyone else to hear what we were just talking about. So I will ask you the question as it's written down, but then you can tell me why it's a silly worded question and the lovely answer that you told me earlier. So how would you summarize this phase of the process and why it's important in as close to 60 seconds as possible?
My gut reaction is that marketing isn't a phase of the process. So we're here talking about market and release. And of course, release is a phase, but the marketing should be baked in from the very, very start. Obviously, we're talking about product design here as well on your podcast. And you have to know your audience. You have to know you've got the right product market fit and all of that good stuff right from the very start. If you're leaving it as a phase to the end, your offering is going to fall short, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's why I think it's so important, because I think it is literally the bread and butter, the bottom line of what we're doing here.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add, Ash?
Well, I think it certainly should be. I think the truth of the matter is it's not something that we're seeing a huge amount where people are really openly discussing, having a discourse with the business in terms of what the business wants and needs from a learning perspective. Subsequently understanding what the employees want and need and require. Very, very often we're still stuck in this order taker rigmarole, which forces us to produce learning products that have no real kind of upstanding in the organization. Someone, somewhere decided we needed to make something. We made it, we pushed it out, and we're not surprised really that it didn't work. So, I think that, and of course in that scenario, very little marketing is done, if any, even just on a campaigns or release side of things. So again, just to add to Hannah's point, the notion here is essentially we don't understand how our learning products meet any needs, whether that's a business need or a learner need. And therefore we're developing products blindly and then also marketing them blindly. And unsurprisingly, if we did that in the real world, our work would fail, and it is doing the exact same thing in-house, internally.
Absolutely. The reason we kind of structure it as a phase in our process is that the kind of definition, the kind of discovery phase at the very, very beginning of what we talk about covers a lot of the things that then feed into things like user engagement, that feeds into marketing, all these kind of things up front. So who is it you're actually marketing to? What are the problems they're having? Where do they hang out? And why would they even care about this? So trying to explain to somebody, two sides of one tale. So rather than telling them, we have spent, I think you mentioned this, Hannah, in your Learning Network talk just before Christmas, telling somebody we spent 100 hours working on this and we're so happy to release it. I still don't even know what it is you're going to release and what you spent 100 hours doing. You could have been
also, you're doing your job. Well done, you, L&D. Well done for doing your job that you're paid for. That's never going to get any butts moving.
Exactly.
No, and I mean, I'm literally sat there as you're saying it thinking, who cares, right? That is not a motivator for anybody. Well, I spend a lot of time doing this, so I think that you should use it. cool. I mean, I
Yeah.
just don't care, you know? I mean, workflows in organizations are crazy at the moment. You know, we do extensive audience research whenever we do any bespoke client project where we're building campaigns, building personas, brand work, whatever it may be. We speak heavily to the business and the people within it. And what always comes back is, I don't understand what's available to me. I don't understand how it's relevant to what I'm doing. And I am really kind of lost when it comes to the benefits of this, right? So I'm giving you my time. You've given your time, so I should give mine. It's not a quid pro quo situation here, you know?
And they can't be bothered to try to work out why they should care.
Yeah,
Think
absolutely.
how busy we all are. If, I don't know, somebody in finance came over to us and was like, you need to know this. Why should I try to work it out? I don't care. I'm not in finance. They're literally thinking that about learning. As much as we know there's tons of benefits for them, they don't know that and they can't be bothered to work out that solution themselves. It's our job to convince them of why they should get involved and sell those benefits to them.
Absolutely. And I was talking to someone about a future episode where we're going to talk about the future of learning, because I find it such a nebulous topic and no one really seems to give an answer. They just give a theory. I guess it is a theoretical thing. It's not happened yet, but nobody really gives a strong enough answer. And one of the things that I kind of phrased to someone that might come on was finance, a great example. They've always got the same business case all the way through. We can figure out your tax. We can figure out all your international tax, which is a whole other nightmare. And we basically deal with all the money stuff so you can just get on with the thing that you're there to do. If it's in 10 years from now and learning are taking the same approach where they're not understanding their audience, not everybody, but majority, and they're just pushing things out because someone somewhere, individual, has said, I'd like you to go and make whatever it is I'd like you to make, baseless, then what's their business case for existing? What's the reason that they can keep turning up every day and saying, we've spent 100 hours on something? Because you might be spending 100 hours probably looking for a job because you don't exist anymore. So in terms of marketing L&D as a function, is that something that they need to work on their own, or we as L&D professionals in the function, is that something we need to work on as like a brand image? Or is that something that's kind of that train has left the station?
Yeah. I mean, I think in 10 years' time, my question would be, is L&D still going to be around? You know, at the moment, most of what we do is a very expensive exercise in futility. And, you know, the reason I started MAAS in the first place was I was sincerely astonished that people would spend 6-7 figures on learning products, platform subscriptions, etc., and not have to showcase any tangible ROI from that investment. It beggars belief. Obviously, as a marketer, in-house, the work I did and the spend I made was scrutinized by my CEO, by my stakeholders. You're spending this. What are we getting back from that investment? The expectation is that marketing generates ROI for a business. At the moment, the semantics of most organizations are that L&D is not perceived as ROI. You know, it wants to be. Businesses want learning to be a priority for their organizations. They know that, I just recently read the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report. It just came out this month. You know, all the data there suggests that organizations are continuing to invest in reskilling and upskilling. Skills gap is, the kind of the major blocker to business transformation. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing redundancies, restructuring, massive loss of budgets, headcount loss. So what's going on here? L&D isn't seen as valuable in a lot of organizations, and it's getting cut, or it's getting amalgamated into a people function or a wider kind of people transformation piece. So yes, it is a branding issue. It's an internal perception issue, and we don't own that narrative at all. No one's asking us for this, so we don't do it. We're not going around trying to prove. Sorry, Han.
Yeah, I think as well, when we talk of it in that way of like, people don't perceive the value of L&D and they don't see what we're doing, it's putting the onus on them again. And actually, we need to take some responsibility for it as learning professionals. So at LN Connect, where we met you, Greg, I was on a panel discussion about the value of L&D, and we asked the room, how many of you know what your business strategy is, your business objectives, what you're working towards? 2 people. There must have been about 40 to 50 people in that room. 2 people put their hands up. 2. That is a shocking percentage. I don't like, if we want to be valuable, we need to be working alongside the business. We need to take a bit of ownership of that to say, okay, we understand what the business is working towards. We understand what our audience needs as well for that product fit. This is how it marries up. This is the value we're bringing to both our audience and to our stakeholders. We need to be marketing ourselves both ways. We need to take responsibility of it. And I know there's a lot on our plates, but it's just part and parcel of being a business function. We need to be able to demonstrate our value.
The truth of the...
Sorry, go ahead. No. Sorry. Are you sure? I'll just finish that thought, because I think the truth of the matter is L&D can and should be a really intrinsic part of the EVP, and that's an employer value proposition, right? So it should help with attraction. We invest in our people, whether you stay here or not. It's crucial to us that you have the skills and competencies to do your job to the best of your ability, but also help you accelerate your career in the direction you want to go, whether that's upwards or horizontally or in a new area completely. But again, we're not really being asked to do that. So we're just waiting for instruction. We're sat complaining about being a cost center, being the people, the order takers, but we're not really taking the initiative to change that narrative and take ownership over what could be and should be an incredible value add to businesses from an attraction and retention perspective.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, I feel like if you look at a generic kind of career trajectory for just a person, they kind of do school life, maybe go to higher education of some kind, or they do something after they're kind of, when they turn sort of 16 or so, then they start to go and look at jobs and they start to move into a workplace. They move into a workplace, they have no real work experience, but they have some level of skill, as in they've been to school, they kind of, they're not incapable of doing anything, but there's things they need to learn, they need to move up and so on and so forth. Then we start to get into the more defined, like engineering, for example, or coding, where you need to take a very defined path on that. That isn't something where you can just say, I've used a computer, so I can code you something and I can learn this and I can do it to the the nth degree. Those are things you need to learn. Then when I start seeing job adverts posting and I see a lot of people talking about, people don't mention the salaries, and that's really annoying. Yes, it is really annoying. But then you look at actually the meat of the job spec and they're saying, you must have this level of experience. You must have done these types of things. The companies are looking for people that have done these types of things, and they can say, we're going to hire a safe pair of hands to perform this particular function in our role, in our company. But then if you look at the companies and what they're offering, once they've brought somebody in to say, you must have gone and done this somewhere else. Because once you come in, most of them aren't offering the things that will say, once you've done this, we'll help you learn this thing over here, and you can move up. There seems to be this kind of disconnect between once you join a company, unless you, the individual, start to take the onus and look for your own type of opportunity, there are very few companies that are really offering anything that genuinely has a benefit. They're offering leadership programs, they're offering some sort of soft skill or some sort of like internal program that has bells and whistles and a really lovely logo, but it doesn't really do anything. So it kind of feels like, are you just treading water? Are you just pushing stuff out? Not you guys, but companies, are they just treading water and pushing stuff out to say, we've done something?
And I think in our experience, but like Ashley's already said, we talk to people a lot when we do our projects. We go out and talk to the employees and the audience base. And even the organisations that do have those offerings, that do have that valuable stuff that could help people in whatever way they wanted to go, they're not telling anyone about it, so nobody knows it's there. Like both Ash and I, in separate instances, have been on more than one discovery call where somebody in the call has said, oh, I did this on our platform. And somebody else is like, wait, what? We can do that? Because
we have that. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So we're not promoting our offering enough. So you might invest all the time, money, effort in creating a phenomenal learning experience, creating a great learning product, and then not telling anyone about it. It's not going to get used. So then what's the value in it? Why did you bother?
Yep.
Absolutely. So if I'm a someone that's brand new to this, as in I've been the person that's maybe created, as you were just saying, someone who's created a great product, but I've never really thought about how to market it internally to my company, or I've always done it the way it's always been done, which has been kind of whisper it or don't tell anyone about it or do it really badly.
One email, one time.
Exactly. Surely one email is more than enough. I've sent it, so they must have read it. How would you guys, or where would you guys suggest somebody starts? What are the kind of things that people should be thinking about? Where should they start with this to try and think about how to effectively get their message out and to get people's buy-in?
So I would say if you have indeed developed a really great learning product, then that should be based on some level of research, and there should be some really great user journeys mapped out there already. So you should have some element of segmentation via personas. You also obviously have targeted learning that should be role specific. We don't like to target as marketers by job title, but from learning perspective, people want to know what skills they need to do their job, right? That's the crux of it, really. So if you have that data, then I would strongly suggest that you build out some sort of audience personas that help with marketing. And that isn't, they need this learning. That is, again, what you've kind of danced around here is answering the what's in it for me, right? Why on earth should they give any of their time whatsoever to go into the learning platform or watching this video or reading this PDF, whatever it might be? Where is the benefit? If you don't understand that, if you don't understand what it is that you offer to people, first of all, and the value that they're going to get from that, and also what benefits they're going to receive, it's going to be really, really hard for you to answer that what's in it for me. So you need that data and that understanding of your audience's pain points, motivators. Different people work for different reasons. There usually is a uniting force of money. If we all won the lottery, I don't think we'd be going to do our jobs. So again, we like to skirt around this idea, but promotion, increases in responsibility and scope of role, these are all attractive to the majority of people. So we need to understand that and weave that type of stuff into our marketing messaging first and foremost. So what we typically see when L&D is doing any type of marketing, and I use that term, or the term campaign. I said to Han yesterday, the word campaign is heavily misused in our industry. To us, a marketing campaign would span at least 3 months, probably 6 to 12 is more realistic, and is focused on multi-funnel, multi-channel approach, i.e. hitting people who've never heard of your product before ever. And that's a lot of your audience, by the way. Down to people who are loyal, heavily engaged, maybe 1% to 2% of your audience, people who really are logging into the LMS all the time. They're lifelong learners. Every business has some of those people. Targeting each stage of that awareness funnel, the ADL, that funnel that we use, and then also making sure that you're leveraging as many channels that are at your disposal as possible. That isn't just email. That isn't just office screens and posters in the toilets. That's activating and enabling people in the business that can work as incredibly good conduits for your messages. But they need to understand, again, our discovery repeatedly highlights that management also are a little bit inept when it comes to L&D. They don't know, again, what's available to their people. So they don't know how to, when they're having one-to-ones and PDP conversations, they don't know where to point people. They don't know what's there, what's important, etc. So there's got to be this kind of education and enablement piece as well through your communications and marketing. But at the crux of all of that should be answering the what's in it for me.
And I think as an extension to that, Ash, it's a task of empathy as well. People, it's really easy. So say I was creating a marketing campaign for someone just like me, just like Hannah. It's so easy because I know what app I open first in the morning. I know where I spend my time. I know what I'm interested in. And I see a lot of learning professionals almost biased towards their own preferences. And we need to not do that. So when you've created those personas that Ashley spoke about, think about where's that person hanging out? If that person is always on the intranet, go to the intranet to get their attention. If they are using Slack or Teams or something like that, work out what you think that person's doing and then go there. Don't just fall biased, because I've talked to clients and they're like, yeah, but I never go on the intranet. Yeah, okay, but it exists for a reason. Yeah. So don't just fall into the trap of going to where you think it's great. And look, you're not going to be the target audience at every single campaign you do. You're not going to want, you're not going to have the same reaction to all of your marketing as your audience are. And it's a tricky task, don't get me wrong, but it's a task of empathy, of thinking what's going to get that person to get involved. And that's what we need to be focused on.
Absolutely. And just one more thing on that as well. I think, it is a numbers game too, because when we do campaigns for our clients, we'll make anywhere between 50 and 100 assets to support that campaign. And again, Han, I don't know if you've had these conversations where they're like, that's a lot of stuff. And, you know, the reality is not everybody sees everything you put out. You know, we aren't getting 100% email open rates. That's not a thing. That doesn't exist anywhere in the world. I mean, industry averages for education, somewhere between 18 and 22%, you're doing well. That's open rates. So when you start really doing the maths on that, the reality is a lot of people don't see what you put out there, so you have to play a numbers game. It's again why any big brand in the world does a multi-channel approach. You know, you might see a billboard for Coca-Cola in the tube, but then you might see an advert on TV. You might see something on social media. You'll see their bottles when you go shopping, so on and so forth. You know, these are all pieces of a campaign that seed an idea, you know, and we're kind of inceptioning our people, really. You know, this brand presence needs to be omniscient and kind of everywhere and nowhere all at once. And you're not, you know, you'd have to be emailing people an awful lot to make them feel inundated with your specific comms, because the truth is, if they don't have the time or your subject lines suck, they're just not going to read it. You know, they might read the next one.
And it's very quickly for them to... Sorry, Craig. Sorry, Hannah, after you.
I literally saw a post last night that said exactly that, and it was on a marketing channel. It wasn't even about marketing for learning. And it was like, are you getting bored of your message? Good. Your audience aren't yet. Keep going. Because you do feel like you're repeating yourself a lot, but only this many people are seeing it. You need to keep repeating yourself. Obviously, don't literally keep sending the same email. That's not going to work. But keep hammering home that message so that people actually want to get involved.
Absolutely. And I think there's definitely a level of consistency and tone and that kind of thing. So, like, I remember someone telling me about they'd read something about Apple stores when Apple stores became a thing. And they'd said it's basically like they photocopied themselves around the world, was the phrase they used. So that you could go into any store in any country, and whilst the individuals will look different and the language will be different depending on what country you're in, everything is laid out exactly the same. Everyone's wearing the same t-shirt. Everything you think you need is in the same place. So in terms of a physical experience, you're not really having to think about it. You can bypass the where do I go, why am I here, what's going on, and get straight to the benefit of, well, for Apple, the benefit of, can we sell you something, and then how much can we sell you in the 7 or 8 minutes that people spend in the store. Like, how quickly can we move you through that journey? I feel it's the same when we talk to people about marketing, in that if you know all of this information up front, if you've done your discovery, as you guys have mentioned, if you've done that properly, you know what things are going to make them tick, what things are going to turn them off, and if you can understand very quickly how to hook them in, they will make their own decision pretty quickly around, this is for me, this isn't for me. Because, as you said, not everyone's going to go for everything. But if you don't know that, you're just kind of this weird scattergun approach of, hear my voice. And then most people are like, your voice is really annoying. Can you go away now? I'm just going to see your branding and then walk the other way. So one of the things I was going to ask you guys was about, I've seen a lot of L&D teams release products with like a big bang approach. They've done what they feel is, we've had a day or a town hall or a learning week or a product week, whatever it's going to be, and they post it all over LinkedIn and go, isn't it great? And everyone's like, yeah, lots of photos and it's lovely. And then afterwards, nothing really happens.
Yeah.
What's the thing? What do you guys hear from your clients is the thinking behind that? And then how do they kind of, I guess, justify, well, we thought this was a good idea because, like, because you said a good campaign is a minimum of 6 and 12 months, not a week.
That's a tricky one to answer because I don't want to seem like I'm bashing L&D.
No,
I
not at all.
Absolutely love the fact that people try to put the effort in there. I think we think short term, okay, we've made loads of noise. It's what I just said. We think we're being really noisy and we're grabbing everyone's attention. But in the human psyche, that just doesn't work. That people need to see stuff repeatedly to make sure that they're engaging with it, so they even remember it. Like, I read a book over Christmas and, I could probably tell you about 50% of the plot by now, and it's only, the 16th of Jan. Like, in a couple of weeks, I've forgotten a lot of it. That's the same as your people seeing your message and then going back to their day job. So I think the reason it doesn't work is because we need to do that, like we said, campaigns that are actual campaigns, not just saying it's a campaign and then doing one thing really loudly and then running away, but repeating our message and spreading it out over time. L&D talk a lot about spaced repetition and things like that. You need to do it in your marketing too. You can't just go, I've told them something once, so they're going to remember it. You need to be putting those extra touch points in. Like Ashley said, send an email, put something on the intranet, put a poster on the back of the toilet door. lots of different places to make sure we're slowly drip feeding that message and stay in front of mind, because we live in a real noisy world. Like, you think, like, I looked at my screen time the other day and I'm making a conscious effort to try to not be on my phone anymore because it's disgusting. Everyone's battling with that. Our phones are going off. We're getting notifications here, there and everywhere. Your message is going to quickly drop down that priority list unless they keep seeing it. So I think that's where it's going wrong, and the reason why those one big bang launch events go wrong. I also think they probably don't start soon enough. We need to create some excitement about them, but I think that longevity and repetition piece is probably the biggest downfall.
I think it's all a very complex web of things, right? So again, if we don't have a product that's aligned to the market, that's going to be a problem. So even if our marketing works, we're going to get people to that product. They're not going to find what they need. They're not going to have a positive experience. The odds of them returning are slim to none. So that's a problem. On top of that, we then also have an issue where if there is marketing being done at the moment, it is often one-off type stuff, but also the messaging is just not aligned again to the audience and the benefits. So if there is communications going out, it is the, oh, we have a thing, or hey, there's a new leadership workshop next week. Do you want to sign up? And so it's missing, it's very transactional communications. We have this, you go here. And there's this expectation that, if you want my honest opinion, I think we have a very inflated ego in L&D, maybe not consciously, that we're very important to everybody. We're very important to the business, and everyone really cares about learning. We care about learning. It's really important. That's just not the mindset that's held by the majority of the employees at your business. But that's the position we start from with our communications. People will care about this. People already know about this. And there's massive gaps in that. Like I said, the majority of your audience don't know about learning. They don't know what's available to them. They don't know where to go. So just telling them this thing's here, you're creating this very transactional one-off experience rather than the habitual learning that supports a learning culture, which is what most people are aspiring to, I expect. So that's the issue for me, really, is the product's not quite working, but we're also not really doing our marketing and communications right either. And so the two things combined mean that we're trying to do subpar marketing with a substandard product. And so both sides of these both need to be looked at and remedied. It isn't as simple as let's do awesome marketing, but let's never explore if our learning products are fit for purpose, because that's you're gonna hit a wall. Like me and Han can come in and make you an awesome campaign and you will get activity, but it won't have longevity because the product doesn't work for people. So there has to be this combined effort, I think, to evolve everything that we're doing and then really put the audience at the heart of all of that. That's got to, audience insights are crucial. And I'm bewildered why we don't talk to our audiences. We're building products for people and we don't speak to them. Can you imagine any other consumer brand in the world thinking like Nike? Oh, yeah, we're going to build a new pair of trainers and we're going to put, we're going to pull Dennis Rodman back out from the 90s. We're going to make a shoe for him. Jordan's did well. Let's do a Rodman. Let's just make it. Hey, Bob, over there, can you just go design what you think people might like? Okay, well, we'll just then send it over to manufacturing. They can make it. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool. Let's take it to market. Yeah. That's what we do. That is literally what we do. We sit in our own little spaces making stuff, assuming we know what's best without ever balancing that with audience and insights and ensuring that it's aligned to our core goal, which is enabling the business.
And I think it always shocks people when I say this. And I've got one client that has just done this so perfectly and it makes me so happy. You can't outmarket a bad learning product. And you're running a huge risk if you try. Because as soon as someone's had that one bad experience, they're going to remember it. So then you're going to have to work 10 times harder to get them to come back, even if you fix the product. They're going to have that memory in their mind. So you've got to get the product market fit right before you're investing all your time and energy into marketing it. L&D miss that marketing piece massively.
Hugely.
But you need to, you can't just do that bit. you need to get the product market fit right. You need to make sure that this product is actually going to solve the needs. And like Ash said, we can create you the best marketing campaign in the world. But if we're selling it that it's like this futuristic, amazing thing that's going to change your life, and then they log on and it looks like teletext and they can't find anything they want, it's not going to work. So they need to go hand in hand. It just needs to go together.
And this is the thing. So we're kind of revamping our material at the moment to talk about our product design process. And one of the things is, rather than, as we stumbled over at the start, when you guys were saying this isn't a phase, this should be all the way through, one of the things we're working on is almost like swim lanes of, there are 5 or 6 different things that we suggest people do, but they're not in isolation. They might come up like 6 or 7 times over the cycle of what we're suggesting people do. Some are, releases obviously further down the end, but there's loads of things that happen way at the beginning, then they might not happen for a while. But that's okay, because you're going to come back to them. Or you're pulling from something that's happened earlier. We're trying to make a really simple visual for people. But again, when we're talking to clients, we always explain to them nearly all of these kind of things that we're all talking about exist already. So we live in a society where people can give you their feedback without knowing you super quick. Like Trustpilot exists, Airbnb reviews exist, Google reviews exists, Twitter exists, which is some sort of mad hellscape at the moment. But like, you can go on and just say, I used a thing, or I went to a place, or I did something that you sold me, and it was great, or it was horrible, or this happened. And I've even found myself doing it. I can go on Trustpilot, it could say 1,000 reviews. I will immediately go and look at that 2% of bad reviews just to go, what's the catch?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that will happen if I pay for this thing, or if I go on this course, or whatever it's going to be? People are doing that in learning functions, but they're just telling each other. Or if they're having that genuine experience themselves, and like I say, it's not great the first time, that's their mind made up. Everyone can be swayed to a degree, but it's so much harder to change a bad first impression of something when they can just say, well, I've got my phone with me, I can just go anywhere else online and find something else way quicker that looks much better, and I'm probably not having to pay for it. So whilst my screen time, same as yours, is way higher than I want it to be, I will probably go and do that than engage with something else where I've gone, didn't really do anything for me last time, or they've said something very vague about what it's going to do for me, so I don't actually know why I'd spend my time there. So it's mad to think that L&D isn't embracing that type of product and service to kind of fall into how they think about product design, marketing for products, that kind of stuff as well.
It begs the question, right? What need are we meeting? And is it like I'm not being like facetious here. I don't think we know what we're trying to do. Again, when we do discovery, I'll often ask as the first and foremost, like, what's your primary goal as a learning function? And people don't know what to say because they're learning. And that's not enough. Again, I've worked in-house in marketing many times, and sometimes we haven't had marketing strategies, and it's infuriating because it's like, well, what direction am I going? What am I trying to do? Well, you want to generate leads. Well, in what way am I generating leads? How am I building brand? Am I focusing on social media? Like, what does that look like? So I think sometimes we, in a bid to build perceived value, we've gone a bit gung-ho on the whole learning offering. We've got a platform, we have extensive content libraries. None of that's mapped to anything meaningful for the most part. And so again, what need are we meeting? Are we just saying to people, if you need to learn something, there's lots here. Yeah, but they have Google. They have ChatGPT. Like, you are erroneous in that context. If I need learning at the point of need, I will go to Google. I need to know how to do a lookup on Excel. Tell me how to do that. I'll watch the video, I'll do it, and then I will never remember that because I know I can just go on Google and do it again. So
literally did this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So
I've done that many times in my life.
This is what people are doing. So I think it begs the question of what need are we trying to meet? To my mind, it's understanding what core skills the business really needs to achieve its goals. And how do we then help supercharge those within the organization? I don't think it's our job to upskill everybody on every possible thing and competency in the world. What's important to the business, but also what's important to people. If your audience, again, repeatedly tell you through research that they do want access to a content library, a LinkedIn Learning, whatever it might be, fine. But don't just get stuff because you think it's going to make you be seen as more valuable, because I actually think it depreciates our value. That's certainly what I see and hear repeatedly, is there's just too much and I don't know where to start. Like, if I go on my Degreed platform, there's 400 courses on Excel. Which one's the best? Which one should I do? I don't know. Or like, I've had learners say to me, I've done a course and then I've kind of found out that actually it was like way below my skill level. And so I felt like I've completely wasted my time. Surely our job as the learning professionals is to understand the learning that we're offering to people and make sense of that and build it into something meaningful, journeys, and then weaving freaking campaigns around that. So that's my thought. Anyway, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to get off my shoebox now.
No, it's almost
soapbox, not a shoebox.
I'll do that.
It's a really big shoebox.
Yeah.
Massive platform.
Good, I am short, so I do need something.
It's almost like all these things are connected, but somehow everyone else has just not figured that out yet.
No, I agree.
So to your point about what's the goals, we kind of go with a slightly more kind of brutal wording of it and just say, what's the worst thing that would happen if we don't tell anyone about this? Or if we don't even make this thing? Especially when people are coming to us with a predefined idea, say, can you help us make this thing that sits in this neat box and we want to push it out this way? And said, well, in theory, yes, we can. But before we even say, yes, we're going to do that, what's the worst thing that would happen if we don't do it? Would everything stay exactly the same? Because if it is, let's not do that. Let's do something else. But let's, before we decide what we're going to make, let's maybe do a little bit of research and then figure out.
And is learning the solution? Like, again, I think sometimes people are like, oh, I need a learning module. But maybe we could accomplish this in an hour meeting with people. Maybe it doesn't need to be a learning module. I think, again, I was just recording my own podcast yesterday and I was chatting with Derek Mitchell and I was saying to him, I find a major issue with like learning needs analysis because it implies we're already in a place where we're looking for learning solutions. So again, it's the same issue we have with the word learner, right? It's very pregnant and it infers that people are already learning. It implies that we require learning to solve the problem. And I think obviously we're going to do that because we're learning professionals. It's our job to create learning. But I think that creates a strange discourse with the business where their expectation has become, I need learning, you make it. That, and we need to do more performance consulting and business partnering to really understand what's going on and have the ability to push back and say, actually, look, we've done our research. Here's our strategy. What you're asking for doesn't align with the business goals. And so I'm going to just say a big no to that, and I think we can't always do that.
But what's funny and why I giggled when you said that, Ash, as I've admitted to you already, Ashley, I'm trying to get my steps up, new year, new me and all of that. So I went right back to the start of David James' podcast. And I'm probably 3 episodes in, 2019. And he had Nick Shackleton-Jones on it. And he said exactly what you just said there, Ashley, that the learning needs analysis or training needs analysis is pointless because, and it stuck with me because it made me laugh. He was like, you could do a marshmallow needs analysis in a business and then realise the whole business needs marshmallows because you've asked them, how many marshmallows do you need?
They don't have marshmallows.
5. I haven't got marshmallows, so I want 5 or I want 10. Like, you don't know it. So when somebody's asking you, you're giving a random answer that's probably not based on anything. That podcast was now 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're still having these same conversations. Like, what is it that needs to change? I know we've had this weird time warp thing in between, like pre and post COVID, that it all feels like yesterday. But 6 years and we're still having this same conversation. Yeah. What is it that's going to make that needle move to make people go, oh, I need to talk to people more and I need to take off my learning hat a little bit and work out what on earth is actually needed here to solve the problems?
And this is excellent. This is the thing that bothers me with people in general. So my dog's back. There you go. Ethel's back in the conversation. When you talk about moving the needle, I don't think learning functions are currently worried about moving any needle, apart from have I done it and now it's done. They've asked for something, I've delivered something. The business priorities are 10 things this year, so I'll make a thing that hits 10 things, but I don't really going to measure that further bit of did it actually make an impact? All I can just say is I've made it and I've delivered it against those 10 things, not to say it was any good or not. And it just feels a bit like if I order something from Amazon and they go, you ordered 2 things, we've delivered you 2 things. Technically, they've done that. They've completed that transaction. If I ordered know, 2 espresso cups, and they delivered me 2 giraffes. It's a terrible analogy. That's not what I ordered. I've also got nowhere to put them, and I don't know how to look after them. Like, there needs to be this shift between transactional and meaningful, and then this kind of holy grail of impactful, whatever that means to individuals, worldwide. But it does feel like there's just this kind of weird drop off.
Tick box.
Yeah. People just
but no one's asking us to do that, you know, and I think that's why. So we're sat on our hands. I know, but no, like it's like I described earlier. The business has stopped asking L&D to prove itself because we don't have that data, and we're just kind of passively sat on our hands going, but we've been able to just spend lots of money in the past and no one's ever really asked us for anything. The truth of the matter is it will only change if the L&D professionals in role start to realize that it is up to them to start these conversations. If they want more budget, if they want to really, in my opinion, this is a case of survival, not even thriving at this stage, right? Like, if your learning function is shrinking, it's because your business does not see you as valuable. And your business does not see you as valuable because you are not proving to it that the investments it is making, the money you are spending, is generating any sort of tangible ROI that is aligned with business results.
Yeah.
And again, I understand. Sorry, go ahead, Han.
Go. I was going to say, I think learning leaders need to do something more as well. I know we've all got that hierarchy and there's always somebody looking to us. But I've worked with a client recently that literally said to me, I know this isn't good enough. I know this isn't the right thing to do. But my boss wants me to tick that box to say it was launched by the end of the year. They ended up launching on something ridiculous like the 19th of December. Nobody looked at it. It was the worst time, but it had to be ticked by the end of the year. As learning leaders, we should be saying, no, our job is more than a tick box. We need to do what's right for the audience. And we need to have the confidence and ownership and gumption to just say, no, actually, I'm the professional here. This is what's going to work most effectively. This is what's going to get us to our goals quicker. And stand our ground rather than just saying, what, you took an e-learning course one time, you must know learning better than me. Like, we are the professionals here. We are the experts. We need to be confident in that.
Absolutely. And can you imagine having that same conversation if you went to a tax team and said those things? Can you do it this way? Can you do it by this date? And also, guys, I filled out my own tax form badly once. So could you now do it the way I'd like it done? If they haven't laughed you out of the room or just hung up on you, you're going to be in a world of pain with your tax. Like,
the issue is L&D is a lot like marketing. So again, when I worked in-house, it used to drive me wild. And everybody's a marketer. Everyone has an opinion on how I should have written the website and what web page was doing this and this social media post.
What channels to use.
Yep, all of this stuff, right? So everyone's a marketer. And I think because it's visible. So people would always comment on the things that are visible, the website, social media, things like that. They weren't commenting on my SEO because they don't know what I'm doing, right? So L&D is the same. It's very visible. If people are aware of what's there, it's a tangible thing. You know, what finance does, very intangible. Kind of like Cloak and Dagger is quite secret. They can keep that quite contained, and they do. So we're very visible to the organization, or should be. And so we're, of course, going to be open and privy to opinion and scrutiny. Again, if we have data, we have audience research, we know what we're doing, we know what the business is trying to achieve, we've got learning that aligns to that, we've got learning that aligns to the people as well, and we have a strategy that aligns to all that, it makes it easier to push back. This has been signed off at board level? No. It's not very easy to push back on people when they don't have buy-in and when they're not engaged with what you're doing. And if you can say, yeah, you've got all those senior stakeholders involved, this is what we're doing because we've researched and this is what people are saying and this is how it's going to help you achieve X, Y, and Z goal that you're working towards. You're speaking their language and it's making sense to them. So to my mind, we become spineless, and I don't mean that in like we don't have a backbone, but like we don't have any ability to push back. We're not strong enough to say no because we have nothing to support us. We have no real, besides our gut instinct as learning professionals, and I've no doubt that those are very grand, but it's hard to substantiate gut instinct and
Yes.
show your C-suite why, oh, my gut says we could do this. Who the heck are you? Sorry. So we need data. We need to be able to show either why we're saying no, why we're doing what we're doing, and how that is going to positively impact things. Then we at least have an ability to remove some of that order taker dynamic. Like I said, this doesn't align to our strategy. So whilst I appreciate that's what you want to do, we're not going to create that for you because we're focusing on X, Y.
Absolutely. I'm very conscious of time. So I've got one more question. This has been fantastic, by the way, and I'm hoping people have taken things away that we haven't been beating L&D up. I think it's more just at least on my part, it's a collective frustration that the answer is right there in front of you.
Yeah,
and we all engage
absolutely.
in marketing all the time, and we all have these opinions, and we make these really snap decisions about. I do with Trustpilot, like I said. Why is that different with an internal offering? It kind of feels on my part, it feels nuts, but.
Yeah, and I love this industry. I've worked in it a really long time, and I think my frustration comes that we are missing opportunities, and we are doing great things. And most learning professionals who I know are really sincerely passionate about what they do, and they really love their job and helping people, help more people by thinking about this more, and just really kind of, being a little bit more methodical in what it is that you're doing rather than just blindly building stuff and procuring new tech because you think tech's your problem. I just think we've got to at some point have a broader vantage point that sees that, yes, we are really an integral part of this business, but we're almost doing ourselves an injustice by not doing this analysis, by not talking to our audiences. We all sat here understand that, and that makes sense. Truth is, it's not complicated. It is time consuming, and doing the good work takes time. It does, and that's the truth of it. How do I start saying no to all the people that are asking me to create learning so I can go and do research? That doesn't feel like a good use of my time. But if we don't, eventually they'll use AI to create that content. So
even was it 20-ish years ago, Blockbuster? If anyone's old enough like me to remember Blockbuster Video, I know I was much younger, but I didn't imagine a time where that wouldn't exist. Where I could just walk down, stroll around and look at all the things that were available. I could pick them up. I could wander around and go, I'm going to hold on to this because someone else might take it because there was only one of them, Predator. Classic. But then, however long after I had those kind of, Friday night experiences of popping down and picking things up and walking around with them, it was then a case of, oh, that doesn't exist anymore. And it's not a case of it doesn't exist in my town where I was. It doesn't exist anywhere. And I think there was maybe one left in the States a couple of years ago, and then now that's gone. And now it's just a memory that people tell much younger people about. There used to be a place where you could go and grab these videos. You probably go, what are you talking about? It's mental. At what point will N&D become Blockbuster Video, where we're living in this heyday of big budgets? We're starting to see that dropping. We're starting to see headcount dropping. The amount of times I'm seeing the open to work banner on people on LinkedIn, way more than usual. The amount of times I'm hearing clients saying, we would love to work on this type of thing, but we're scaling back, so we're going to just do this really kind of small kind of whisper of a product rather than this kind of loud and proud thing. It's mad.
Here's my parting thought, right?
Please.
Why did Blockbuster fail when Netflix succeeded? Because Netflix was a mail order DVD delivery service back in the day, right? They didn't have a streaming service. They adapted. Blockbuster didn't. Blockbuster was very obstinate, kept its static stores, kept its VHSs, sure, upgraded to DVDs and Blu-ray, remember those?
Yeah.
Evolve or die.
Yeah.
It is that simple.
The ditching this is how we've always done it, because things are changing. How we've always done it doesn't work anymore. We need to move with the times.
Absolutely. I want to ask you my last question. I feel like we've covered lots and lots of things, and you've given us so much wisdom and insight and really nice answers. But the last thing we usually ask people is there anything you would like to plug? Anything at all. Doesn't even have to be about learning. If you're doing a fun run, you want to raise money for charity. I'm not doing any fun runs, by the way. Anything at all. Now's your chance to plug it.
I never run for fun, so I'm certainly not doing a fun run. Hell no.
Definitely not.
I guess if you're curious about learning more about how marketing-led learning can be transformative, and it is beyond campaign thinking, of course, then we have our own podcast, which I mentioned that earlier. So we've done over 100 episodes. Most of them are very short and snappy and very focused on, bite-sized experiences, 15 to 20 minutes, where people can learn about marketing. It isn't just us talking. It's actually how you do these things. And we also have some incredible guests and whatnot. So that's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
And everywhere.
And everywhere. It's called Marketing for Learning. So, and it's bright pink, so you can't really miss it. And then obviously me and Hannah are very active on LinkedIn. So if you've enjoyed our somewhat opinionated, strong shoebox standing, then we're both on LinkedIn. My name is actually Hinchcliffe, not Sinclair. Just recently changed it.
Yeah.
Whoops-a-daisies. Sorry, Phil. And Hannah, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
I think the only other thing is that there's going to be a rare opportunity in a few weeks' time at World of Learning to see both Ashley and I in the same room. We're doing a sip and learn. So if anyone's at World of Learning, it's been a year or so since Ash and I have actually done anything together because Ash has been on mat leave. So we're going to do a whole session on engagement. So if you fancy a glass of fizz and want to think about how you actually get people engaged with your phenomenal learning products, which I'm sure they are, come along to that as well. It's open for everyone, so it's on day 2.
Screw the marketing. Come for the alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm going.
I don't even know what I'm talking about there. I'm just going to drink champagne.
I'm now going to go because of that. So that's
See
an
you
excellent
there.
advert for it. See,
this is the
they
thing.
convert
You under
me
promise
into-
and then you over deliver. See, that's the marketing
This is
stum.
marketing in action right now. And I will just say on a more sensible note, I saw Hannah speaking at the Learning Network conference November. It was the end of last year, and it was brilliant. So I will say from first-hand experience, go and hear these two people speak. They are very good at speaking and very informative, and I took a lot from it. So thank you very much. And thank you for being on the podcast. It was lovely.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, love it.
Thank you. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you very soon.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.